She said, oh, I got to stop working and come home and take care of my baby because I don't know what this is. So Michael always held up. But now I learned to make chicken and dumplings. I learned to fry chicken. I learned to make potatoes. I learned to cook when my mother was working. But that one particular time, I made a boo-boo. And although he would swear out I couldn't cook, sis, can you make me some macaroni and cheese? So and so is having a party and I want to take some. And we'll get the ingredients for some. He was always asking me to cook him something. But yet he sit down with gusto and eat my food and say, she can't cook. Some sorry food. Oh my gosh, this is the sorriest food I ever had. Hey, can I get another plate of that?
Hello, everyone.
Okay, I would first like to thank the 2025 Women's Day Committee for allowing me this time. I appreciate each and every one of you for coming here. It shows I just feel the love. And I appreciate you for wanting to share my story. It was a project when my brother first was diagnosed. Um, I was I was just tore up. He was my brother. And I just could not imagine the pain and the agony and everything that he was going through. So to get through, I said, maybe I'll keep a journal. And it was Sister Gina Davis that encouraged me. She said, Robin, you should. She said, you should. And so I just began to write and write. And the sad parts were hard. But then as I started writing, I began to run down memory lane. And I started laughing, and as he would go through and he'd call me, and I'd just say, and then I'd bring up that memory to him, and we'd laugh about it. Many times just getting around our parents and some of the little things we did that helped me to get through as I watched him just dwindle away. Sometimes when he was sick, I spent a lot of my time at his house to support him and my sister, Nadine. So we would watch The Sopranos. We would talk about different things, and Mike was always the wiser, the older one of us. He always knew everything. He was the boss. So he would give me life instruction and, sis, this is what God says. And I could hold it up. I could smile and talk to him, and we could joke, and I'd cry all the way from Catesville to my house, because it was just heartbreaking. But as I began writing and going back down memory lane, it brought me a sense of comfort that Mike did live a full life. He lived a short life. He was 50 when he finally passed, but he lived a full life. And he enjoyed it to the gusto. There was nothing that I don't think that he couldn't do. So I wanted to share my brother with anybody that was interested in reading about it.
All right, all right. Well, I'll give my mother a hand. Today we sit here, we celebrate. And I gotta ask you, what does it mean when you see everybody come out to celebrate you, celebrate Uncle Mike, celebrate your story, and to be able to share? What does it mean to you right now? What are your immediate thoughts?
I just feel so loved. I'm so grateful to each one of you, but I just feel the love in this room. I'm so thankful. I can't say it enough. I'm so thankful. I see faces that I've known all my life, and many of you know me and Mike. Many of you remember him being on the choir, and he was cutting up with another member, Reggie Calhoun. he would cut up. I think they were the baddest boys in the Christian memorial history. They would cut up so bad. My mother was standing on the senior choir number 2, and she would, which meant turn around, sit down, and Michael paid her no attention. So she would come down off the choir in her navy blue robe, and does everybody know what this means? It's not like, but this means when your parents say that. And he'd get up and he'd go with my mother. There was no new sanctuary or auxiliary auditorium. He'd get up and he'd go over there with her. And there was a meeting that went on during the church service. Reverend Brown would be preaching and my mother would be speaking. So the next Sunday morning, he would start cutting up. And then they would have a meeting before they came to church. So Mike would come to church and he would just, you didn't ask me all that, did you?
No, go ahead. That's your story.
Mike would come to church, and that Sunday after the home meeting, he would sit and be quiet and go to sleep. But many of you remember Michael Carroll and his cutting up in the church.
So let's talk about the book. First of all, that moment when you first held it in your hand. Your story, Uncle Mike's story, Grandma and Grandpa all became immortal.
Mm-hmm.
Something that'll live on forever. What did it mean? You talk about the tears behind your smile, but talk about those tears when you finally held this great artwork in your hand.
I had no words. I was speechless. I held the book and I said, here it is. Immortal, as you said. Here it is.
Now, also, I want to talk about, we live in a day and age of social media. Can you talk about the love that you got from people you didn't know or don't even know you, but they can relate to this story because we talked about this before. A story about anybody who has a sibling that they love.
Mm-hmm.
So you talk about what it meant to see people that you didn't know, that didn't know Uncle Mike, but reach out to you and tell you how much they could relate.
Yeah, that meant a lot because it became more than just a book, more than my story. It was like, a word, if you will, that went through so other people, if you do not or did not have a relationship with your siblings, that it was time to get it right. I see so many siblings who I can't stand that so-and-so, or I hate them. Your brothers and sisters, you share something that nobody else can share. And that was words my mother would always say. You two have lain in a place where nobody else can claim. You all are brother and sister. She said, you're supposed to stand up for each other, even against me. And we got around.
Pass that down.
Yeah. We got around my mama and daddy so much, it's shameful. But, that's how we were raised. And I hate to see siblings that can't stand each other. How is that? You're both, you share something that no one else shares. So I don't like that. But I'm glad I had such a relationship with my brother.
Now, the thing, I know the title is The Tears Behind My Smile, but there's a lot of smiles in this book, a lot of funny stories. Was there a time when you was writing where, how like you, Megan, Daddy and I, Taisha, Sierra, we'll be talking and then we'll just stop and just laugh uncontrollably. Mm-hmm. Was there a time when you was writing a book and you're sitting there writing and you stopped and just couldn't stop laughing because it regurgitated a memory?
I think there were several, but one was when we were little, and Michael could always get me, but he said, sis, you got to come help me tie my shoes. And I said, Mama said, no, if I do it, I'm going to get in trouble. And he said, please help me, I don't want to get a beating. So I tied that booger shoes for him. And then I said, so he was going to give me this dime or this nickel. So he went in his pocket and he was shaking it in his hand in his pocket like he had big money and pulled out a white button. And I said, no, Michael, you said you was, because I'm whispering because I didn't want my mother to hear me. You said you was going to give me a dime. I ain't had no money. I said, I'm going to tell Mama. No, you can't, then you'll get a beating. And it was when I went back, and that was, I think I was probably 7. That was so funny to me. That was just one of many times when he got over on me. But it was just so funny. you know. And it was so many memories that when I went back down, I remembered and I enjoyed them so much. You
Now,
know.
now, how did you, as a writer, was there times where you had writer's block while you was putting this together? Because it's your story, but sometimes you trying to figure out which direction you want to go. But did you ever have a time where you had writer's block?
In the beginning, because I started the story with his present state, and it was so painful. And just, I said, well, how much can I talk about somebody dying? And then I just started adding stuff, and I got uplifted, and so that was the only time.
And what's the one thing you want people to take away from today as they're reading this for those who are reading it for the first time?
Embrace your loved ones now while you can. Tomorrow, this afternoon is not promised to us. We don't know what the day may bring. Just embrace your loved ones. If you have an issue with a family member or a good friend or someone, call them today and make it up. Don't make up. Don't wait because we don't know what can happen. Just make it right. Get it right. Get your loved ones.
Do you have any advice for anyone out there who want to write a book, whether it's fiction or nonfiction?
Just do it. Just do it. I've always written one thing or another. I have daycare stories. In high school, I had to write a journal, and I was often told, Bob, you should write a book. You would be a great writer. And I'm like, I want to do children's books. I want to do comedy and stuff like that. But just do it. And as I said, when I was thinking about it, and I'm going to do this, I should, put my pain on the pages. And someone said to me, why not? And I'm forever grateful to her. But why not? And I did it. And then my children, my family encouraged me. They said, Mommy, you write well. Go on and do it. And
I said it too. You go picking Megan as a favorite. I understand it's Women's Day.
I did not get to that point. And my son, he was there 150%. He would edit it, and, he'd read it and he'd say, you had a little more. Tell more about the story, Mama. He said, because I know the story, but others don't, because I am a person about abbreviations. So I did have the support of my family. Sometimes in the middle of the night, I go in the next room and I'm just typing. And then when Howard got up to go to work, he said, you ain't been asleep. You need your rest. So I did have my family support and my friend support. Those of you that knew I was writing, because I was a little concerned about how much I wanted to share. Sometimes you start talking, you talk too much. And I didn't want to share a whole lot. And then some things were necessary to share so that you could understand as you read through the book.
You talk about daddy. You talk about support. Is there a moment that just made you smile when you look back as you was writing this? Because he's always been supportive, and if you want to go to the moon, he's gonna go find the rocket ship to take you there. But can you talk about this particular project where you just felt, I guess to say, fell more in love with him?
I think because he's always been so supportive. But one thing, this was after the book was published, and I was, giving books away and what have you. And he said to me, everybody got a book except me. And I'm like, you live with me. You know the story. I have a book. I don't have my own. So that really made me feel good that he wanted to share that much.